Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there and welcome back to your show, You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is their host, Cesar Espino, and you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com. Today, I have a special guest. Her name is Lisa Edwards. Hey, Lisa, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Cesar. How are you?
I'm doing, thank you. Thank you for asking. So for the listeners, let me just give you a little bit of her background, and then we'll have you kind of introduce yourself again and just kind of go through your background, through your own journey, okay?
Yeah, sure.
So Lisa was actually in a relationship of 6 years, and what seemed to be probably the one relationship turned out to be probably one of her biggest nightmares. It actually was a huge lie. Her ex-husband or a partner had actually another family, was married, had another child with somebody else, and really just was lying to Lisa in many different aspects, to the point where he even lied about him having a brain tumor and used that as an advantage to really take advantage of Lisa and sexually assault her. And so luckily Lisa was able to get out of that relationship, and now Lisa is a master practitioner of hypnotherapy, NLP, a timeline therapy, and an inspirational speaker. So I wanted to just kind of give a little bit of a framework, because I know that there's a lot more that you can share with us. And I wanted to hear that from you and talk about, first, before we get to maybe the relationship, is where are you from, and talk about your childhood.
My childhood. that I think that's another episode.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a very strict religious household. I would call it fanatical, actually. So it wasn't really the best upbringing, and I kind of grew up with this fear that I was going to be, struck down by God if I didn't follow a certain path a certain way. And in many ways, I was kind of manipulated, if you like, from a very young age. Yeah. And so I had this sense. I think I grew up with this sense of being unworthy, this sense of kind of, that I was never good enough. I was a sinner. I was bad. And so I think that's where a lot of my, I think, as you know, a lot of trauma and things, a lot of our issues that we carry through our lives are sort of rooted in our childhood. And I think for me, that was a huge problem.
And I think, and you know this from being an NLP and hypnotherapy, a lot of times between the ages of 1 and 7, more or less, that's when really, what happens in those 7 years, it really can stay with you for the rest of your life, right? That's when the unconscious mind and the conscious mind, both of them, are more alert, and anything that is happening during that time frame, you're more or less are going to be carrying that with you in your life, unless you start making changes or start, working on your mind at the end of the day. And so if anyone that goes through anything like that at a young age, it's hard to break those, beliefs, habits, things that were installed in you by other people that we might have seen as authority figures. In this case, you were seeing, the religious aspect of that was an authority figure. And so therefore, you're always kind of living with this fear of not being good enough, right? And a lot of people go through that even nowadays as they're growing up in anything. It doesn't have to necessarily be religious. It could be a family that is, not properly functional, or even friends or things like that. So, yeah, I can see that being a difficult task, right?
Yeah. I think there's, sort of to reiterate your point, I think there's that famous saying, isn't there? Give me a give me a boy until he's 7 and I'll give you the man for life, isn't it?
Oh,
I don't know.
yes.
I think it
Yeah.
was a monk or somebody
Right.
who said that. So yeah, so it's really quite what happens sort of always up until the age of 7 is usually
Right.
what stays, unless you consciously actively
Right.
change it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So, so that was kind of your upgrowing, and then any major obstacles that you had to overcome, during your teenagehood or anything like that, that you had to go through.
Yeah, um, I had quite a I sort of came from, even we were quite religious, but it was quite an abusive household,
Mm-hmm.
and I was whipped um, at the age of 12
Mm,
and pushed down the stairs at the age of 15 um, by so-called caregivers, people that were supposed to love me,
mm,
take care of me. So that kind of made me more defiant, really. I've always been kind of the person to stand up for myself,
mm-hmm,
and I was considered a difficult person, a difficult child. And by the age of 18, I managed to, obviously, once I was of age, legal
mm-hmm,
age,
mm-hmm,
to leave. I did, and I turned my back on that religion because I saw so much abuse and hypocrisy.
mm-hmm.
But I had nothing because I had nobody, no friends, no family, no everything I'd known up until
Was
that
was
point,
was
was this religion, this way of life, and I had nothing. So I went abroad. I took a
ah,
one-way ticket, and a one-way ticket, and I went to Italy.
oh,
And I didn't tell anybody where I was going,
yeah,
and I kind of forced myself because I had a one-way ticket. I didn't have enough money to return,
mm,
and I kind of made a life for myself. And it sounds quite terrifying now. I don't know how I did it, but it sounds absolutely crazy. But I had, I think if I had that happy family, community, and something to stay for, I probably, it gave me the impetus. I don't sort of regret my upbringing or anything, because I think it's made me who I am.
right,
And
exactly,
it gave me that impetus to actually go and follow my dreams, because I'd always wanted to travel. And
yeah,
it was kind of that, well, I've got nothing to stay for. Why
yeah.
not? Why the hell? Let's go.
Right. And
So
and it's unfortunate that that the people that really should have loved you and be there for you did these horrible things to you. And on the flip side, though, again, like you said, that's what made you do what you wanted to do, which is travel. And so from that pain, something great came out. And a lot of times, I believe that people might go through difficult times, and yet they stay down. They accept that circumstance. They accept whatever might be happening, and don't do anything about it. You decided to do something about it, and I think it's Tony Robbins, or I'm not sure who, or Jim Brown might talk about. I'm not sure who. And they said, if you want to take over the island, burn the boats, right? Because there's
yeah,
no way
that's
going back. You did the
yeah,
same
yeah,
thing. You
yeah,
didn't have enough money to come back. You're like, I'm burning that pass so that I
yeah,
can move forward, right? And so again, that's amazing to hear that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. As I look back, I think, oh, wow, it's crazy. But yeah, absolutely. If you burn your boats, you kind of force yourself. Sometimes you just have to go all in and just
Right.
go for it. And the fear is still there. It was still there. I mean, I was terrified. Don't get me wrong. I didn't
Yeah.
just go, oh yeah, let's go. Everything's going to be fine. No, I was terrified, and I think I was even crying when I was like on the plane, going like, oh my god, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But you push through the fear. It's still there. Fear is there. You can't get rid of the fear. It's pushing through that fear and just keep, going anyway.
Right.
Uh,
And it
absolutely.
becomes
So
rewarding. It becomes rewarding at the end of the day. I
absolutely.
mean, there's always going to be an outcome, and so the outcome is going to be determined by your actions, and depending on the type of actions that you decide to take, is going to either put you in a better position, similar position that you were in the past, or worse position, right? So you have still a little bit of control, even with the fear or the voices or whatever might be happening on the background. I say always just continue to push forward, right? So you went to Italy. Where are you originally from?
Oh, I'm from the UK. Yeah, I'm from
The UK.
England. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So are you in Italy now, or you're back in the UK, or
No,
where do you live?
I'm back in the UK. I spent two
Okay.
years in Italy. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And so, let me talk about. I want to know more about this relationship. because I think that's a big opening eye. And again, I think your story can relate to a lot of people that might be going through it now, or people that went through it before, yet they haven't been able to overcome that obstacle. And so, if you don't mind sharing that full story from the beginning.
Right. Okay. So I'd say I'll start the story in summer of 2014.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, we've been together for 6 years. This is a great guy, seemingly
Mm-hmm.
great guy. Um, all my friends and family, they really liked him. He was very kind, and he was just like a meek, humble
Mm-hmm.
guy, really. He'd never said anything bad to me. My son really liked him, and I remember he used to be quite late home. And he was late again, and I was kind of, having a go at him. We were having a bit of an argument, and he just put his head in his hands and he just said, "Look, I've just come from the hospital. They found something. They found something in my brain. It's a tumor." And I remember it was a hot summer's day, and I just felt cold, this cold shiver down my back. He was 34 at the time, and I just, we had been planning a wedding.
Mm.
And suddenly I was thinking, oh my God, am I going to have to plan this man's funeral? And so, sort of, obviously I was supporting him. And there was at the time some other things going on with his work. And his boss was really supportive, was sending me messages, and his colleagues were
Mm-hmm.
sending me messages through Facebook. But there was this female colleague of his who was
Mm.
kind of really quite interested. It's trolling me and sending me these quite abusive messages,
Mm.
and saying how he was too good for me and I was not good enough for him, and he should be with her. And she was being really quite vicious and nasty, for no reason whatsoever. Um, so there was all this kind of stress going on, and we were sort of still having some arguments. And I think it was maybe about a week, 2 weeks after the diagnosis, and his behavior had really changed. And I was in the bath, and he just barged into the bathroom and put his hands down in the bath, and he was just different. There was just this, quite aggressively. And then I came out of the bath, and he was waiting for me in the bedroom,
Mm.
and he attacked me and sexually assaulted me. He raped me. And as I was fighting him off, um, I remember I was really trying to fight him and stop him, but I was actually quite scared of pushing him down and pushing, just in case he fell and he bumped his head, and I did some more damage because of
Mm-hmm.
this tumor. So ironically, whilst he was attacking me, I was still thinking of his welfare. And I
Mm.
just remember I was scratching his arms. And when it was over, I was just confused, shocked. I didn't know what to think, so I threw him out. Um, and then a couple of days later, he was begging, pleading with me, saying, "Please, can you let me back? I've got nobody else. I'm really sorry. I'm scared of dying." And I was kind of excusing it because I was thinking maybe something had happened with his cognitive functioning.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it had changed. This tumor was growing. I didn't really know whereabouts in the brain it was growing, but maybe it affected his way of thinking because he seemed very different. And so, of course, I let him back in. Um, And then I think it was about 2 months in the end, of him changing appointment times. And, through work or whatever reason, I couldn't be there, or I had to take my son to see his father. And so I started, I don't know, something was just not sitting right with me. I needed to find some kind of hospital appointment letter. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started looking, and I found a second phone of his, and I'd never seen it before.
Mm.
And I just I was standing in the bedroom holding this phone, and I just remember thinking, just I just knew something was wrong. This horrible sort of rising sense of dread. And I turned it on, and I started scrolling through these messages. And one of the first messages I saw was a picture of a baby. And the message was, "Do you want to come and meet your daughter, or do you want to have a DNA test?" And it was 2 years before, so we'd been together for 6 years, so it was obviously.
Yeah,
And as soon
some
as
sign that.
yeah, and I saw the picture of the baby, and it looked exactly. I just knew, this wasn't a hoax or anything like that. And I continued scrolling through the messages, and to cut a long story short, over the next, few days, weeks, maybe a month or so, and I started to gather all the evidence, um, I found out that he was married. He'd fathered a child with this other woman. He'd actually got her pregnant, and because I phoned her and we spoke, she didn't even know who I was talking about. He'd given her a false name, and he disappeared. As soon as she said she got pregnant, he'd disappeared and
So
changed his.
was he like essentially dating three different females, or was it just two? Or
No, so basically he was with me for 6 years. I thought we were obviously a
yeah,
family, a couple.
right, yeah,
Um, and he'd met this other woman on the internet, on a
mm,
dating site, app or whatever. And apparently she was one of many, I think, but she thought she was also exclusive with
right, the
him.
only one, yeah,
Yeah, but he'd given her a false name. They were only together for maybe 2 or 3 months, up until the point she got pregnant. And he said, "Get rid of it." She said, "No, excuse me, I'm not." And that was it. He disappeared. He changed his phone number,
yeah,
and of course, I also found out he was actually, through all the messages and contacting all these people. Um, there was another number on there that was regularly phoned almost every single day. Lots of phone calls,
mm-hmm.
no messages, but lots of phone calls. And I found out that was his wife. So
Mm,
he was actually married.
wow.
Um, so, you know,
Yeah, yeah, and I'm just thinking like I mean, I can only imagine like what was going through your mind. I mean, not only did he had a second phone, he had a Facebook profiles. I mean, he essentially did all the things to make you and probably I don't know how many other people believe that you guys were the only one through all the different actions that he was doing, and to even think about creating um you know stories about his health and make you feel compelled and things like it's like looking ways to attract you into his life, and that's obviously crazy to even know that. And I know that for you that was very difficult because you hit rock bottom. Like this was it was a 6 year relationship. You pretty much your world came down on your lap. You feel hit rock bottom, and you ended up in the hospital as a result of this. So what happened in that sense?
well, basically, I mean, I think they're just a trust issue. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the humiliation and the fact that how on earth, because I felt like I wasn't, but the humiliation was so great.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody about it, because how could I not have known? For 6 years, I was with a man.
Right.
I kept thinking, what an idiot, what an absolute fool. I mean, how stupid can you be to not know that for 6 years that you're sleeping with this guy who's
Mm-hmm.
telling all these lies? And I think, it was quite difficult for me to accept what happened, and I didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
But before I ended up in hospital, what happened, what really sent me over the edge was that I ended up very quickly in another relationship just afterwards. I thought, right, I'm just gonna, in a true British soldiering on. Yes, come on, let's carry on with it. I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I carried on, and I ended up in a relationship. And I don't know if you're familiar with Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction.
Yeah.
Um, the, I mean, I didn't boil his bunny, but I was a bit psycho.
Mm.
Probably not the girlfriend you want to have, because I'd gone from being quite relaxed and trusting to being very, where are you? What are you doing?
Right.
What's going on? Just completely crazy.
Yeah.
And and this guy was amazing. He was so understanding. He was so patient. He was absolutely wonderful, and he did everything right. But in the end, he just turned around after like a year together, and he said, "Look, I really care about you, Lisa, but I just can't do it. It's not working anymore. I just can't do it." And I remember as we were breaking up, he was hugging me, he was holding me and saying, I'm really sorry, I really care about you, but I just can't do it. And in that moment, I mean, it was the most heartbreaking thing because I just thought, oh my God, here is, I
Hmm.
couldn't even make it work with a good guy, a decent
Right.
guy, you know. Here was somebody who, you know, was trying to help me through. But the thing is, I'd gone into that relationship because I hadn't even healed. You know, I was expecting somebody else to heal me when I hadn't taken any responsibility, you know, for my own healing.
Right.
Um, and so, of course, I felt at that moment, although he taught me, which I didn't appreciate at the time, was he taught me boundaries, self-respect, and self-love, by walking away because he cared about me, but he loved himself in order to, you know, he didn't want to put up with my rubbish, my crap, really. So he walked away, um, and that's when I really hit rock bottom. I mean, I really felt like an absolute abject failure. I mean, I just thought, that's it. I'm destined never to be happy with anybody. I'm destined to be alone. I'm useless. And the whole stress of that put me in hospital. In the end, I was so ill. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Um, and then I think it was 6 months of ongoing. I was constantly in pain. The doctors didn't really know what was wrong with me. I ended up in
Hmm.
hospital having tests. And in the end, they discharged me and said, you know, look, we can't find anything physiologically wrong with you, Lisa. You know, we don't know what's wrong with you. Maybe it's stress, you know. And I was quite annoyed, actually. I was like, but I'm
Yeah.
seriously quite ill. And it wasn't until afterwards, it's like that moment when that sort of the penny drops and you think, yes, you know, this is ridiculous. This is stress. And this is what's going on in my head. You know, my own mental well-being is suffering, and it's causing me to physically suffer. And I think at that point I made a decision there and then that, you know, I had to make a change. um
Right.
I had to.
Yeah, and one thing that you were talking about, and I want to touch on that a little bit more. And you know, it seems like, again, if we look back to your childhood, and you know, even leaving your home country because of the fact that, you know, you felt like there was nobody there. Um, you said that at one point you just felt like you were not loving yourself enough, and you felt like you were not worthy, and because of that, you know, you were more or less attracting the negative people into your life without even knowing. I mean, you were not even thinking about it. I'm sure you weren't, because nobody wants to attract anybody negative. Yet unconsciously we're doing this. I am of the belief that what you focus upon will expand, and also, you know, based on some of the past experiences, if you continue to be in that cycle, right, then you're going to pretty much end up attracting those kind of people. And like you mentioned, you know, you went from this 6-year relationship to another relationship, and then the guy obviously saw that there was some sort of, maybe not perhaps that connection that he wanted to, because of everything you were going through and working through that. And really understanding that if you don't love yourself first, then how can somebody else love you? If you don't take care of yourself first, how can somebody take care of you? If you don't feel you're worthy of your own self, no one's going to give you that value, right? I mean, and I think
Absolutely,
that's
yeah.
what you were going through, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, you really hit the nail on the head because I think I realized it wasn't till I started training in NLP, actually, and I
Yeah.
started to look back, and then I kind of joined the dots, if you like. I made the connection that exactly what you've just said really was that what I was doing, I was either attracting the wrong kind of people or the negativity in my life, or when something good came along, like the good guy, I would just push it away and say, you know, how can you possibly like me because I'm not deserving or worthy of being
Hmm.
liked or loved. So I would push, you know, the ones that really wanted to take care of me and care for me. I was like, oh no, you know, God,
Yeah.
like, oh, go away. And again, like you said, it's not a conscious thing. It wasn't. I was just self-sabotaging,
Right. Yeah.
you
Exactly.
know,
Yeah.
all the time.
At the surface, you don't, sometimes you don't realize the things that you're doing, because again, you don't know any better, or you haven't been, you know, you haven't gotten the knowledge to be able to do that, right? And
Yeah,
I believe obviously all of these things that happened led you to the NLP and the hypnotherapy, right?
yeah,
Why did you
yeah.
decide to do that instead of anything else?
Um, well, because I'd had an interest in it. I'd a few years before I'd done like an NLP, a one day thing,
Hmm.
And I do remember sort of like a few things really sticking with me. And I've always had this sort of interest in a bit of psychology, and I always felt of what I heard about NLP was it was very much, taking action, not sort of talking too much about your issues. It was really about moving forward instead of looking backwards, moving forwards, and changing your beliefs and communication. And I thought, yeah, I really need to sort of work on my communication. Clearly, the relationships are not doing very well, and yeah, I found like there was like a weekend workshop quite close by, and it was just happening at just the right time, and I thought, right, I need to go for it. And that's how it started. I did a weekend first, um, and I got so much from that weekend, so much,
Right.
that I went on to then do the practitioner course,
Yeah.
a bit longer.
Now,
And I think
did you get in? So, would you say that you got involved with NLP because first you were just trying to take care of you and see how you can work on yourself, and then
yes,
that kind
yes.
of okay, got it. Yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't. I had no intention of continuing with it,
yeah,
in terms of a career change or anything
right,
like that. No, it was really because I really needed to,
yeah,
I had a son, and I couldn't, because I was just a mess.
yeah,
I was always crying, and I was I was pretty rock. I was really at the bottom, really,
yeah.
and so I needed to. I didn't really want to go counselling. I didn't want to just sit there and talk. I wanted some way of
Some tools and
actively,
something, right?
yeah, absolutely, some strategies.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really what it was at the beginning. And it was such a huge eye opener, because I think the very first thing that stuck in my mind as what I learned on the course was to take yourself from the effect side to the cause side, which was,
Mm-hmm.
from victim
Mm-hmm.
to somebody who's in control of their life. And it was so empowering and so liberating. And I was like, because I'd played this blame game, and was always, poor me, I've had a really bad upbringing, poor me, nobody loves me, poor me, I've had all these bad
Yeah.
relationships, and I'm just this poor little Lisa victim. And it was empowering to think, okay, no, I don't have to think, I don't have to be like that, I don't have to be a victim.
Mm-hmm.
I can change this. I can't change what's happened to me, but I can change how I react to it, and how
Right.
I go from here.
Yeah.
And and that was the first thing, and I thought, yeah, this is powerful stuff. This is really powerful.
No, I
um
love that. I really love that. And again, there's a lot of times people that go through a lot of difficult times in their lives. Some people, again, they stay down and then they don't do anything about it, right? And I like how you decided to take control over your life again and say, you know what, enough is enough. Yes, I've gone through all this, everything that happened in the past, and again, yes, you could have stayed. That's called I think they call it the drama cycle, right? You couldn't stay inside the drama cycle where you're the victim, or
mm,
where you're pretty upset and you're the perpetrator, or where you're now the rescuer, you're rescuing somebody else that maybe you're not really rescuing them, you're enabling them, right? So a lot of people tend to stay in that drama cycle, and you said, I'm not going to stay inside that drama cycle. I'm going to come out of that and see it from a different view. And that's very empowering, because a lot of people tend to stay in that drama cycle and don't come out of that and don't take control of their lives, and you did, by obviously getting some strategies and tools through the NLP. And I myself, I'm also an NLP practitioner, so I know how powerful that can be when it comes down to really working on the mind, and really working on yourself more than anything, right? So,
yeah.
so you went through that. You went through the 3-day class or seminar, whatever that might have been. And what happened after that? What was your next steps as relates to your new journey? Because you decided to rewrite the script of your internal life. Again, you cannot stop what's going on the outside, or anything else. Yet you can work on your life, and you're rewriting the script of your internal life.
Yeah, I think there was, because I did the practitioner, so
Mm-hmm.
I did the weekend first,
Yep.
and then I went on and I did 7 days of the practitioner,
Yep.
and then I just loved it, and then I found this amazing, the trainer. He was like a mentor. He was
Mm.
absolutely incredible. He was the funniest guy as well, and he just knew what was going on inside your mind. He would just look at you, and it was almost like he
Yeah.
was reading your mind all the time. Wow, okay,
Yeah.
don't look anywhere.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely fantastic. And he was so inspiring. It really inspired me. And I remember, I think it was on that, the first practitioner, and I think you've already mentioned this about, because he was talking about this pattern. So often we have this pattern of
Mm-hmm.
behavior, like you kind of
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, and I remember him talking about this. How can you can't turn up in a relationship, or maybe if you've had a pattern, if you look back at all the patterns of your relationship, do you exhibit the same behaviors in those relationships? Then it's not the relationship, then it's
Right.
and
Yep.
what you're doing. And I was thinking, no, I'm not attracting the same kind of people. No, that's not me. That's not me. And then when I actually thought about it, I thought, yeah, that is me. I do that. Although the guys may have been different, there was a cycle, and I could see this pattern of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, no, again, I can see things clearly. It was kind of just, it was like, it was like those tinted glasses. I was taking off glasses,
Yeah.
and seeing things so much clearer. And not in a kind of negative, oh God, I've messed up and I've failed so many times, but it was empowering, because
Mm-hmm.
I could see that I'd had this issue with lack of self-love, feeling this lack of self-worth. And it was actually the mentor, and we were sat together, and I was kind of going on and on about life, and how rubbish everything had been, and I was talking and talking and talking, and he said nothing. He was just listening to what I was saying. And then he just reached out into his pocket, and he brought out a packet of tissues,
Mm.
and he put them down on the table in front of me. And he said, "I'm so sorry, Lisa, but what do you hate about yourself?" And I just burst out crying, and I
Wow.
just cried, and I cried, and I cried, because he hit the nail right on the head right there and then, that that I'd carried this throughout my whole life, that I was
Right.
unworthy and unlovable. And so that was a huge, massive aha moment, and it was a huge it was like a weight. I mean, it was because I was
Yeah.
crying and crying and crying. It was quite cathartic, really. It's just this release of emotion.
Yeah.
And and I think I cried all night, and I cried the next day. And then once after, I was like, right, okay, that's it. I know what the issue is now. I can work on it. Because once you know that the first thing is, obviously, what is it that you need to change, and that was that. So I
Yeah.
had to actively say, that I was good enough, that I was worthy, and start that whole process of, and part of it was even just realizing that that was the issue.
Right. No, and
Was
and, and,
Is
and
healing.
definitely right, and
Yeah,
definitely you have to be able to, you need to get all that energy, right? As we know, a lot of the things that we do are energies, and there's, you had so much baggage, so much energy that you needed to release to be able to get you to the next level. So what were
yeah.
some things that you had to do through this journey of being able to start saying, Lisa, I love you, and Lisa, you're worthy, and all these things, right? To get to start changing your mind to that, because again, for many years prior to that, again, you felt like you were not worthy enough, right, or loved enough. So what were some of the things that you had to do, or might still be doing, to help you with that?
Yeah, well, the thing is about self-love, it's a relationship like any, isn't it? It's the
Yeah.
relationship we have with ourselves.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing daily process. It's not like a one thing. Okay,
Right. Oh yeah.
yay, I love myself now, and it's all fine. Because I think we are our own worst critics anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things. It's kind of been mindful. So I practice a lot of. I have a lot of affirmations. I know it's old school. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie.
It's not, I do the
Affirmations.
same thing.
Oh, do you? Great.
I'll share my habits, and then, after you. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So affirmations, absolutely. I encourage everybody to do this, because it's wonderful. And to put them, some people have them on the phone. I like to have them printed out and put
Mm-hmm.
on my wardrobe or my mirror. And so I see them first thing in the morning, last thing
Yep.
at night. And I'm very conscious. So I think it just helps you, when you wake up, it's the first thing you see. It puts you in a good frame of mind straight away.
Mm-hmm.
And you start thinking of all those thoughts. So that's definitely something that is a daily practice of mine that I always do. I do a lot of visualization,
Mm.
so at night, or usually when I'm sleeping, if I want to change something, or wherever I want to be, if things are not going well, or I need to change or work on something, then I will do my own sort of self hypnosis, or
Mm-hmm.
visualization, whatever you want to call it, it's the same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
At night, relax and just really visualize how it is that I want to be and where I want
Yeah.
to be. Um, what else do I do? Yeah, meditation is a good one as well that I
Okay.
try to practice every day. I quite like the walking meditation because I'm not very good at sitting still for too long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and particularly now we're in lockdown, it's a little
Yeah.
bit
Yeah.
cabin
Right.
fever, isn't it?
Yeah.
um,
Exactly.
so you kind of think, oh, I need to do something. I don't want to be sitting down calm. So I love the walking meditation, which is just
Yeah.
heel, toe, lift,
Ah.
and you
Okay.
just kind of focus. You go very slowly. I used to go to a Buddhist meditation center, and they
Hmm.
taught me this one. So it's heel, toe, forwards, and that's you literally you walk very slowly. You look down at your feet, and you just think about. You're just very mindful of how your feet are moving. Um,
Yeah.
and so that's great if you don't want to sit down.
Yeah.
Um, and another thing that I absolutely love to change my state instantly if I'm feeling a bit lethargic or down or whatever is music.
Hmm.
I love music. I find music very, very therapeutic. Um, so if I'm feeling sorry for myself, I have
Yeah.
like a power song,
Yeah.
a couple of power songs. I put on the power song. I dance. I sing. And that energy is, if I had some negative energy, it's now twisted, it's changed straight away into positive energy, and I feel great. So
Yeah.
I use music a lot as well. And yes, so it's a combination of things, really.
Right. And no, that's amazing. And for our listeners, make sure you take note. I mean, there's already several different tips you can do that you have to do to make sure that they can help you on your day-to-day basis. I'll give you some of mine. What I do, same like you, I do affirmations. And I actually have them on a notepad. I also have two vision boards, and I have little sticky notes all over, like the restrooms, my
Oh,
office, the mirror, all
cool.
over the
Yeah,
place, right? And what
yeah,
I do is I do a couple of things. Number one, right before I go to sleep, I read out the affirmations. I don't just read them; I actually speak to them into the universe. So I read them
yeah,
out loud, and I do that when I first right before I'm gonna go to sleep, and then as soon as I wake up, that's one of the first things that I do. And then I
yeah,
also do another thing talking about self-love. I didn't do this before, and it was very hard to do it when I first started doing this, yet I changed that because I realized that you have to be able to love yourself more than anybody else, and then things start happening for one way or the other. So I started saying three things to myself in front of a mirror. I will stand, look at myself in the mirror, and that was hard to do, by the way. I will
yeah,
look at myself in the mirror and I say, Cesar, uh, I love you. Cesar, I appreciate you, and Cesar, I thank you. And I will say
yeah,
those. I say those three things when I go to sleep and when I wake up. And again, it's just little things here and there that, to me, I believe they have made a big difference, because it definitely changes your framework. It changes your state of mind, right? So
yeah.
how important do you think are doing things like that, whether it's meditating, whether it's affirmations, whether it's doing any kind of habits? Because I know that sometimes people say, well, that doesn't work. It's not even uh, why waste my time doing that kind of thing? Like, from your perspective, how important is it to have something, to do some sort of habits?
Well, I think, I mean, everything, because habits, what you want to do is you want to create a positive habit. We,
Hmm.
we we have lots of negative habits. We want to
Right.
change that, and the only way to change a positive habit is to do it repetitively.
Hmm.
Repetitively. If you're going to do it consciously, you must do it repetitively. Obviously, the other way to do it quicker as well is it's to do both. Obviously, to do it consciously, repetitively, and you can do hypnosis,
Hmm.
which is obviously going directly to, cutting out the middleman, if you like, and going straight to
Right.
the unconscious part. And combination of both is actually quite effective. It's a bit like, I suppose, dieting. Just using food. If you do diet and exercise, it's gonna be quicker.
Hmm.
But I say to anybody that says, it's not working, it's probably because you haven't tried it for long enough.
Right. Yeah.
At the end of the day, nobody gets into a car and learns to drive on the first lesson. Yeah, you have to go and you think, oh my God, oh no, I have to do this. Now I have mirror signal maneuver. Okay, no, now I have to do, oh, seatbelt. Oh my God, I'm never going to remember all this. And then what happens after practice, after lesson, after practice, after practice, after practice, we can now drive without even thinking about it. Yeah, you can
Right.
sometimes you can drive on autopilot because without even thinking about it. But that doesn't come from doing it once. It comes from
Right.
doing it many, many times. So I always say repetition, 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 repetition. You have to keep on doing it.
Yeah.
If you want to do it consciously. If you want to do it quicker, use hypnosis as well, which is, self-hypnosis, which is
Right.
visualization, really, I guess, you
Yeah.
could say,
Right.
of
Yeah.
the positive, focusing
And
on the positive things you
yeah,
want to
and you
change.
might know more about this. I mean, I've heard one of my mentors. I have a mentor. He's actually a hypnotist, and um, and one of the things that he mentions is that you have think of a pizza, and then the pizza is a slide, it has different slides. So one of the pies or the slide is NLP. So the hypnosis is the big picture, right? Because I think it's more deep, or at least that's how he explained to me. And then the NLP is just a portion of that, is part of that. They actually have different ingredients, just like you might have on a pizza. You might have more stuff on one side than the other, yet they're both very powerful. And actually, if you put both of them together, for sure, it's definitely a lot more powerful. And I've been
Yeah.
trying to get into hypnotherapy. I haven't gotten there yet. I've done some stuff on my own. Yet I think that could definitely be something that I can utilize a lot, because I know NLP is definitely great, and I can already see putting those things into practice. So in terms of the people you hang around with, because one thing that I just I was thinking about right now is, during your growing up, you didn't really have very good influences, I would say,
No.
or people in your community or in your circle of friends. How is that now, with the mind shift that you have now, and what you're doing? How is that critical to have the right kind of people versus the wrong kind of people in your network?
Well, I think people, you tend to naturally attract people like you think it's about self-worth. Again, it's indicative of how you
Hmm.
feel about yourself, is the kind of people you attract really into your life. And I think the more you value yourself, the more valued and valuable are the kind of people that you're going to attract into your life. So I
Right.
really think that the focus is always really on inside, because we project outwards our own feelings, don't we? So we tend to, I think, if you can be feeling quite negative about yourself, and then you may meet great people, but you see only negativity because you project outwards your own feelings.
Mm.
That same person, if you're feeling good about yourself, you could actually meet somebody and actually see them in a completely different light. So
Right.
I think that sometimes, I tend to see the good in people. Maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. I tend to see the good because I believe that we're all a bit of yin and yang.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah.
light and day. Um, so, but I think if you value yourself, and self-worth, and you set boundaries, which part of loving yourself is going to be boundaries,
Hmm.
having those kind of boundaries and respect, then naturally you're going to attract the right kind of people. So I
Yeah.
think really work on yourself first, and then you are going to start attracting the right kind of people into your life, and slowly the ones that the hangers on, the leeches, the ones that you really don't want,
Yeah.
you'll have the energy then to get rid of them, and they will just drop off
Right.
naturally, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and
uh,
I always say is, make sure you're working harder on yourself than you do on anybody else. Uh,
Absolutely, yeah,
that's what it comes down
absolutely.
to. I love what you one of the things that you put here in my notes is, true success and happiness is not about what happens outside of ourselves, but what is going on in our minds. The first step is truly believing and knowing that you deserve it and that you're worthy. And I really love that, because it goes back to what you just mentioned right now, and even working harder on yourself. It really starts with you. It starts within taking care of your body, yourself, and then all of that is going to be projected,
Absolutely.
and that energy is going to be attracting, right? And so
Absolutely.
I don't know if you want to comment more on that, because that came from you, except I really love that.
No, I mean, I think that we tend to look for happiness. We tend to look for outside external influences for happiness, and
Hmm.
perhaps and you say we might look for happiness, and if I get married, I'm going to be happy, or if I lose this amount of weight, I'm going to be
Mm.
happy, or if I just need a holiday and I'll be happy. And the thing is, you take you are still you. You are still you if you're married, you're still you if you're single, you're still you if you're fat, thin, whatever, however you are, you're still you. So looking externally for things, if you go to Barbados for 2 weeks, you're still you. You
Yeah.
take yourself with you can't escape you. So
Right.
for me, I think that you have to love yourself, because it's not about what happens outside of ourselves. I mean, I went off. I had this dream to travel, and I wanted to do this, and I was constantly looking for something missing outside of myself. I thought, yeah, if I learn this, if I travel here, if I do this, if I have a relation, that will validate my self-worth.
Mm.
And actually, it was never going to happen, because, like I said, we are a mirror. Our world is a mirror of how
Yeah.
we're feeling. So it doesn't really matter if it has to start again with you. As
Yeah.
we've just discussed, it's so important to realize your own self-worth, and
Right.
then everything else fits into place. Because another thing that I was saying on that one, about loving yourself, is that I always kind of liken it to, you can still achieve success and happiness, maybe briefly, even without self-love. Because I do liken it to a bit like, trying to fly a kite when there's no wind.
Mm.
If you run hard and fast, really hard, you might just have some kind of success and you'll get it up there. But how long is it going to stay there?
Mm.
We can achieve some kind of success, but it's about maintenance as well, because you want to keep hold of that success, don't
Mm-hmm.
you?
Yeah.
And that's going to happen when you value yourself. You'll be able to, if you achieve success, and you're worth it, you deserve it, then you can hold on to it. If you don't deserve it, again, you have that self-sabotage in mind. Oh, I shouldn't be successful, and I shouldn't have this money, and I shouldn't be happy, and because I don't really deserve it. And slowly
Yeah.
you start to either have anxiety that you're going to lose it all, or you don't deserve it, or it shouldn't be there. So that's why, for me, it's massively important that you start with yourself, really.
Yeah,
Mm.
no, I love that. I really love that. Instead of putting value on the external aspects of life to make you happy, put that value in your internal life to be happy. And I really, really love that. So, give me a little bit about your NLP experience, and what do you do in terms of your NLP and hypnotherapy and all that stuff, and what kind of services do you provide, or how do you work with people on a one-on-one basis, or yeah.
Yeah, no, well, obviously at the moment I'm not working one on
Yeah.
one. I had a face to face. I did start mainly working with sort of weight loss and health aspects, but now
Okay.
I've kind of working more on the self love and the sort of
Yeah.
rewriting the script, internal diet, and really sort of focusing on that, because I feel like that is my, it's something I feel deeply passionate about.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've certainly been through. And I've noticed as well in clients, perhaps they're coming in for the weight loss, and
And there's
there's that
something
barrier.
else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
It's not
Right.
just the weight loss, there's always something else. And it usually comes down to perhaps not loving themselves as they
Yeah.
are, and feeling, again, this whole, as we've been discussing, really, when you strip away the layers, it sort
Hmm.
of always tends to come back to, I'm not
Right.
good enough, I'm not worthy. um, so I'm really passionate about that. And currently, no, obviously, this whole, at the moment we're in the lockdown,
Hmm.
so I do see clients on Zoom and things like that, but it's more sort of relaxation and anti anxiety
Yeah.
at the moment, because that is obviously
Yeah.
what's going through a lot of people's minds, and just sort of strategies, really, of managing anxiety and the situation.
Yeah.
I'm co-authoring a book as well at the moment,
Nice.
which is going to come out hopefully September or so,
Hmm.
about inspirational women. I just started a speaking career,
Oh,
and
good.
obviously that's a little bit on hold at the moment. So
Yeah. Yeah.
because of the situation. So yeah, so things, and of course this is, I'm working on a course as well, and some digital things. So
Yeah.
hopefully I'll have a lot more to offer
Yeah.
a wider audience, really,
Yeah.
in the
No,
coming
definitely.
weeks and days. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Lisa, you're giving me a lot of great tips, and I really enjoy your energy, and you have a very amazing story, and definitely, uh, I would say that you are a person has been able to overcome a lot of different obstacles in your own life. So I really appreciate you sharing that with the audience and the listeners. I have two more questions for you. If people wanted to connect with you, where can they find you to connect with you?
Yeah, you can Facebook. It's
Okay.
probably most active on Facebook. I don't know if you're going to put the links or
Yeah,
anything
yeah. So I'll
perhaps
have
on
all
the
of that information on the comments for people to connect with you
yeah,
and get that. Yeah.
the
And
social
then
media. Yeah.
yeah, awesome. And then you've given us a lot of great tips. So hopefully you have one more, somewhere in there. If you were to give us one tip that can help people overcome anything in their lives, what would that be?
One tip to overcome, or a practical strategy, you mean, or
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would say, right, have a goal.
Mm,
Have a specific goal. Write that goal down in smart and as if it's happening now in the present. So you put the dates, and you put it in the so you want the goal to happen,
mm-hmm.
but you put it in the present tense, and you'll be quite specific. So you use some kind of what you're doing and what you're doing to get there, and visualize living, having achieved that goal. So imagine as if you are actually, you know, looking through your own eyes, having achieved this goal, whatever it is, where it is you want to be, and crank up the volume, turn up the colors, hear the sounds, whatever it is that makes it as absolutely real as possible, and really enjoy having achieved
Mm,
what it is that you want to achieve, and really and focus on that, and naturally your unconscious will take you in that direction. So I would always say focus on what you do want, not on what you don't want, because as you said,
yeah.
whatever you focus on you get more of. So be specific in what you want, something positive, visualize it as if you already have it, um, and write it down and
Yeah.
have it there and focus on that. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. And yeah, definitely. I love that. Make sure you have a very specific goal. Don't just be generalized.
No.
Visualize it, and then try to live in that picture, whatever that might be. And then present tense, a time frame is very very critical. And
Yeah.
I really love that. uh, you definitely, that's definitely a great tip for people to utilize, nowadays in anything they want to, and I'll give you an example on that. If you're taking an exam and you want to ace that exam, already visualize as if you've already taken the exam, you already passed it, see yourself with 100% on that exam,
Yeah.
already think of it, and then you're gonna achieve that. So yes, I definitely love that. So Lisa, thank you so much for all of your ideas and thoughts, and for taking the time to speak with us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you for
And
having me.
yeah, definitely. And for the rest of you guys, please do me a favor. Make sure that you check us out in all your favorite platforms of podcasts. We're also on YouTube. Make sure you comment, like, and share this video. Please check out Lisa and also leave her a comment on this video. Till next time, I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good one. Bye.
Do you feel stuck? Do you feel like life is against you? Do you feel like you can't get ahead? Well, we have a podcast for you. You can overcome anything with Cesar Espino, real estate investor and real estate coach, NLP practitioner, and author of the book of the same name. Cesar will show you a way to overcome anything in your life through talking with people from all walks of life that have done just that. You Can Overcome Anything podcast available on Spreaker.com.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you tuned in to this podcast. You can find me at Spreaker.com, where you can like and subscribe. And to learn more about myself and my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at Facebook under Cesar R. Espino. Once again, thanks for joining me. I am looking forward to having you at the next episode, and know that you truly can overcome anything.